Hi, this is your reporter from Esports Channel 1, and today we have the privilege of speaking to Dr. Wayne Mackey. You are the creator of a program using artificial intelligence to help esports gamers win. How do you do that? Tell us about it.
Yeah, thanks, Ron. Right. So the company that I created, StatespaceLabs, we created a new product called AimLab, which you can think of as like your own kind of private, personal, artificial intelligence powered coach to help you perform better for playing first-person shooter games like Overwatch, Fortnite, CS:GO, all of the popular titles. So you can think of it as like your own kind of personal coach that kind of does two things. One, it runs you through a battery of kind of tests and fun little games to play to learn about your strengths, learn about your weaknesses, find out what you're good at, what you're not, any particular like performance biases you may have. And it uses all of that information that it learns to then create kind of training scenarios for you to perform to kind of work on the things that you're not that good at. So, let's imagine, for instance, if when targets or enemies are presented in the upper left portion of the screen, maybe you're worse there than if there's a target or an enemy that appears anywhere else on the screen. As humans, we all kind of have these unique visual biases where whether we're playing games or driving a car or playing baseball, we may perform better in different parts of where we can see things.
Wayne, how
Yeah.
does artificial intelligence play into this?
Yeah.
Because you're setting up all sorts of scenarios
Yeah.
and all sorts of combat situations.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what your program teaches and what are some of the bells and whistles.
Yeah. So the core of it is that once you kind of do these things, as you play, the little AI layer is learning about you all the time. It's learning what you're good at, what you're bad at, and using this information in real time to adjust your training, to adjust the environment, to adjust the difficulty level, all of the things that you need, like a good coach in the gym. It's just like, oh, you need to work on your legs, or you need to work on your upper body strength, or whatever it is. It learns these things about you through experience, through you just using it. So that's where the AI plays in, and then it uses that to develop in real time to help you get better.
So you create a profile and keep that profile
Yep.
and help players learn off of that. Yeah, I've seen your program and it shows graphs of improvement in different areas. What a great idea. You
Thank you.
show specifically how you can improve in different areas.
Yeah.
What are some of the direct and indirect benefits that a high school esport gamer would get out of your program?
So I think the direct benefits are obvious in a couple ways. So one is that you can identify maybe what you're not so good at, things that you wouldn't learn just by playing the game. So like in my previous example, we can tell you if you're bad when things are in the upper left portion of the screen versus elsewhere. So with that information, you can train more efficiently and you can improve on those weaknesses. I think that the indirect benefits are interesting in themselves. Is one, just by training and doing something outside of the game, it really boosts your confidence. And esports, just like any sport, is a large part mental. And if you have the right state of mind, and then if you're confident in that, and being able to have something that can give you, direct view of how you're improving and what you're doing well, it can really boost your confidence. So when it becomes game time, and we see this a lot with the pro teams that we work with, because they feel I'm trained, I'm ready to go, they don't have the same jitters and the same anxiety when they go to play professionally and in competition. They're like, I've performed to my best abilities, I'm ready to go, let's go.
Well, you hit it right there. You work with pro teams,
Yeah.
and this is really why you developed this program
Yeah.
to help the pros. Now you've been able to introduce it down to your regular e-gamers,
Yeah,
and I
absolutely.
I think that's great. How would your program improve team play? In other words, I want my E team to win.
Yeah.
How would it improve? I know individually, but how would it improve the team to win?
Yeah, it's funny because that was one of the very first things. So when we started building this, we talked with a lot of pro teams, and the biggest thing that they wanted a tool like this for was not necessarily always training, but for scouting and team composition. So if they knew, what someone's strengths were and so what someone's weaknesses were, it's easier to devise, well, what role you should play, which character in Overwatch or what role in Overwatch you should play, in what other players, given their strengths and weaknesses, are best to combine with you so that we have the best team composition that we can have. So I think even though it's mainly focused on individual gameplay, having that information allows you to better construct a team of people who complement each other and play well together.
That's fantastic. Uh, Let me go off book a little bit here and ask you this. Can your program, if I'm not a gamer per se, but I looked at your program, and can this program teach people to deal with real life situations?
It's funny. We have asked that a couple times. Actually, a couple police officers have emailed us and like, oh, can I use this? Will this help me at all? I would love to say yes, but the reality is no. So I've done a lot of research in memory and from the history that we've learned from failed brain training apps. We know that context is very important and very important for learning. So computerized gameplay like this is good in helping you with computerized gameplay, but in the real world, it's very different. It's a very different context. The motor memory and motor skills are very different. So that type of information usually doesn't transfer in any way.
Ah, interesting. It's something I would have thought the opposite.
Yeah.
Now that I have you, can you tell me a little about your background and what got you into StatespaceLabs and creating this wonderful program?
Yeah, I had a pretty strange path to get here, probably a little unusual. So I was actually a terrible student in high school. So myself, I barely graduated high school. I think I had like a 1.8 GPA. So for a lot of my high school teachers, if they learned I became a neuroscientist and CEO of a tech company, they would probably be pretty shocked or not believe it. But I hated math and science in school. I didn't see the use of learning things like if two trains leave at this time and one is going this speed or that speed. I was just so disinterested in those types of things. But I loved video games. And I wanted to make my own games. So at the time, I was like, okay, I'm going to teach myself how to code so that I can make my own video games. I don't really care about math or science, but coding is cool, and I can build stuff. And then over time, I realized that to do things like make video games, you need to know a little math. You need to know a little science. So without realizing I was learning math and science, I was learning math and science by making video games and just making things that I wanted to. And I didn't go to college, obviously right away. I worked for about 10 years in business and sales management until I was 26, and I went to college at a local community college, and I thought, I'm going to go get a CS degree. I'm going to be a game developer. I transferred schools to Philadelphia to Temple University, and by mistake, I took a neuroscience class. I just thought it would be fun. It would be kind of a cool thing to learn about. And I was just blown away. I completely fell in love with the brain. It was like the ultimate computer, but it was this weird, like alien technology that nobody understood, and everyone was trying to reverse engineer and figure out how it worked. And that just fascinated me. So my first week of class, I changed my major to neuroscience. I never looked back. I did my PhD in neuroscience at NYU. Right after that, worked in a couple of different labs doing stuff from kind of brain training stuff at Temple to computational and visual spatial stuff in my graduate school program. I worked in things from virtual reality to eye tracking to lesions to neuroimaging and fMRI, kind of lots of fun tools and to answer a lot of cool questions. But I've always been a gamer at heart. And when the opportunity kind of presented itself and I saw that there was something missing, something that people needed in gaming as esports started to grow, we were going to these conferences at MIT, sports analytics conferences, and esports coaches and players and team owners started to come and give talks. And what they were trying to do and what was really painfully missing was a way to measure the analogs in gaming of what would be in traditional sports, like how fast someone could run, how strong somebody was, how high they could jump. those fundamental components at skill that whether you're playing soccer or basketball or football, those things are all very helpful and important. And there are things that you can't measure while you're playing the game. So the NFL, right, they have a combine where they measure your 40, they measure your strength. The NBA, basketball, they all do the same thing because those are good predictors of success and things that can then be focused on for training. So that kind of led to the idea of, well, this is obvious. As a neuroscientist, the analogs of those in gaming are hand-eye coordination, visual acuity, your decision-making abilities, the things that we've studied in the lab for years. So I thought, wow, if we had this data, there's so many cool things we could do, matchmaking, scouting, and eventually our first stop here, which is training, so that we can use what we know from the lab, what we know about gaming and what's important, and we can build a tool that helps everybody, whether you're a professional, whether you're just starting, whether you're somewhere in the middle. We can learn where your skill level is and help you grow from there.
Wow. That's quite a journey.
Yeah.
That's terrific. I'm so glad. When did that spark come in that you said, okay, I'm going with this? What happened? What was the wow moment?
So for the company or for like going to school? Yeah. So I kind of had the idea for a couple years, and really we just sat on it. We didn't do anything with it. And there was a competition, a startup competition came up through the engineering school at NYU. And literally in the last 5 minutes, we're like, okay, let's try it. Let's see if we can make a go at it. I think it's a really cool idea. And we ended up entering the competition and we ended up winning. We won the competition. It was like 3 months long. We learned a lot. But what we really learned was this is something that people really need. When we took the time to not just talk to pros, but to talk to other casual gamers and kind of understand the state of the space and where things were, we realized, okay, this is very badly needed. And we have a unique opportunity given, our background and our skill set and our passions to create something that people really need at a time where people really need it.
Perfect timing. Your company seems to be on the leading edge of technology. Are you involved with other projects that you can share with us?
Yeah, so we have a lot of projects kind of cooking at the same time. So obviously AimLab is the main one that's focused on training. We're building a similar tool for MOBA games, for like League of Legends, which kind of serves all the same features, but focused on MOBA. We have a really cool personal analytics tool that analyzes gameplay in real time while you're playing. So like while you're playing Overwatch or while you're playing Fortnite, we can discover some really cool biometric analytics of like, oh, you're biased when things are on the left versus the right, or you're overshooting targets versus undershooting targets. All that we can do in real time while you play the game, and you can look at how the effects of your training directly impact that performance. We have some cool professional.
Excuse me. How do our watchers get this information about some of these new programs?
You were kind of cutting out. Sorry.
I said, how do our listeners, our watchers, get this information about the new programs that you're coming out with?
Yeah, so they've actually been pretty top secret. This is really the first time I've unveiled these to kind of anybody outside of our team and some close confidants. So we'll have some really cool announcements probably over the next month or so where you can test some of these tools. We have some tools for some pro teams that we've been working with pro teams that we're going to roll out at the high school and at the college level. So things that help you with team management, that help you kind of analyze your performance over time and who's better working with who and stuff like that. And we're also working on a scholarship program for high school students that want to train and use AimLab. We'll take kind of your scores and your metrics of how good you are and offer scholarships for students, to go to college and to play at the college level.
Wow, it sounds exciting. I want to be on your team.
Yeah, go back to high school. See, we'll get you some scholarships.
I've been there, done that. Let me ask you, you're involved with gaming and the essence of it, but what is ultimately the most important thing of winning a game?
Oh, that's tough. I still think that regardless of what game it is, that really mental performance, especially in gaming. So they talk about how your mental performance is important in traditional, more physical sports, but it's even more important in gaming because it's truly a head up sport. You use your hands and your fingers, but all of that is again, driven by your brain. So it's, quick reflexes and things like that. And those mechanical skills are important. But I think having confidence in that serenity of mind of while you're playing so that you can perform well are all very important. So it's really heavily weighted on your mental capacity and abilities.
That's that's good advice. Good advice. Your program uses artificial intelligence, and this is coming up to be a big thing. Uh, what do you think high school students should be thinking about artificial intelligence coming up in the future?
I think that you should look at it. I think in the same way that I looked at neuroscience. So um, I was really excited to get involved in neuroscience because it was new and not much was known about it. There was still so much to do and so much to learn that I felt like, wow, I could really kind of carve my own space out of this and do so much and really contribute something meaningful. And artificial intelligence is in the same spot. We're still very, very early in the kind of things that we can do, and it's very exciting. So it's never, it doesn't matter. I'm a good example. In high school, I wasn't very good at math and science. I didn't really apply myself. But something like AI, especially, is very applied, and there's so many cool things that you could do with it that we don't even know yet. It's a very broad category. There's so much to do that it's very exciting and something I kind of encourage any student. It's going to be a big part of our lives going forward from right from everything it's going to touch. So I absolutely implore anyone to kind of to learn about it and to see, even come up with your own ideas of what could you build in 10 years or what would be a cool way to do it, and do it. Think about it.
Yeah. Where do you see esports in 3 to 5 years?
So I think it's no surprise esports is just kind of a rocket, right? Going up, as we've talked, like you see a lot of media and investors and stuff like that are very excited about gaming and esports. And I think for gamers, it hasn't been a secret to us. We we kind of knew, like, yeah, well, welcome to the party. We know, yeah. Yeah, we've been here. We know, and we know where it's going. I think a big thing that's missing in esports compared to traditional sports that we'll see over the next 3 to 5 years is really storytelling. And a lot of people relate to traditional sports, and why you can relate to and look up to players like LeBron James, Michael Jordan, and any of these athletes is because there's such a good story. When you root for a team, there's a storyline. There's rivalries, players, and still to this day, I think if you were to ask the average player, who's your favorite pro esports team, a lot of them don't even know. Who's your favorite player? They can't name one, and it's because it hasn't kind of penetrated the everyday home to where there's players that are that popular, right? I think Ninja is probably the most popular player, but even he's a streamer. He doesn't necessarily play professionally, not that he's not good enough or anything, but he's a streamer and an influencer, which is different from the competitive scene. And I think that as we build up some storytelling around the leagues, around the teams,
Mythology.
yeah,
Actually, it's mythology.
yeah,
Building up a story. You're right. A story. A new idea.
yeah, it's like you want to be able to have reason to root for somebody beyond just their abilities, right? Like that connection of just like, oh yeah, this guy or girl, I can really get behind them, and that's what's missing right now.
That's good. That's good. And maybe your programming will go in that direction as well.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, is there any advice you could give an esports gamer that's looking to go into this as a career?
Yeah, I think that there's lots of things probably that really kind of translate from anything that you're doing, but specifically, it's not going to be easy, and you're going to have ups and you're going to have downs, and that is completely normal, and that is okay, and embrace those things. So you'll learn more from the losses and your failures than you will when you win. So don't ever let that get you down, and try to not contribute to the toxicity that is very widespread, especially in competitive gaming, because it's only going to bring you down as well. So there's actually good research to show that as you start doing that, right, how I talked about, you want that kind of mental clear state of mind to be able to perform and to have confidence. And when you start tilting and you start getting a type of toxic mindset, you're going to perform worse. It's not just that you're going to harm other people or you're going to be mean to people, but even selfishly, you're going to perform worse. There's zero benefit to doing it. So try to stomp out those habits early, and be a good teammate and be a good player. Because at the pro level, they look at those things. It's not just this is the best player. They look, are they good to play with? Do they have attitude problems? Are they super toxic? Those things really, really matter. So even those outside of the mechanical skills, I would definitely, make sure that you work on those things, and you'll see it benefit your mechanical skills.
Great advice. Here's your chance. Any final comments?
Oh, no, I think that was a good one. I think if I could leave some imparting wisdom, it would be like that. Be nice. Yeah, be nice to each other. Don't be so toxic. I think that's part of another thing of esports growing and being on par with traditional sports, is that you see a lot of this kind of trollish and toxic behavior leak out at the professional level, right? The Overwatch League has had to suspend several players for how they acted on their streams. And if we want esports to be on that same level, this mega sport in the Olympics and things like that, we do as a community have to clean up our act a little bit, to play nicer and treat each other better, for everyone else's sake, but also selfishly for our own.